Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV. Now, in the last video, we covered all of the 3.2 main scenario quests. It's a little bit more difficult to do all of 3.3 in a single video, so regardless of how long it takes, I think I'm going to break this one up between doing the dungeon of this patch, 3.3, which would be Sohr Khai, as well as the trial, which would be the final steps of faith. It'll mean two shorter videos, but I think otherwise we're going to be running into kind of an awkward territory. So at the beginning of 3.3, or at the end of 3.2 and the beginning of 3.3, the last quest of 3.2 and the first quest of 3.3 had offerings for what looks like item level 230 gear. So what we're going to be looking for is the Hailstorm Attire of Healing, and that's going to bump up our item level quite a bit, because I believe we are using item level 200 left side gear. Yeah, I have the 250 weapon, I got the 240 accessories, plus I have a 231 left over. So this will give me the left side 240 gear. Not even 230. It should be 240 because I believe just like the accessories, it will be completely upgraded. Before we go into Sohr Khai, I absolutely need to remember to repair as well. I'm sure all of you went like, oh my god, look at his gear. He's going to forget to repair. And listen, if I don't remember to do it before Sohr Khai, I'd have to remember to do it before Nidhogg, so let's just remember to do it before Sohr Khai. In fact, let's do it now before I make the fatal mistake of saying I should do something and then not doing it, because the Jeweled Crozier is right over here, so don't have to run too far. So, currently I've been doing these on weekends, and that's actually been working out really, really well for me, because I can take anything that I might know or hear about during the week regarding updates and regarding things, new opinions and new metas that are evolving regarding different jobs, and I can talk about them on the weekends when I do this video. So, it's actually turning out fairly well, and I think when we move into 4.0, I'll have a lot of more up-to-date relevant information to talk about than if I had kind of rushed these out throughout the week, which was kind of my initial intent. So real quick, let's just do that repair. And then we have to go to the Forgotten Night. So let's use the Ethernet over here. I gotta say, I was never a big fan of the Ethernet here in Ishgard. I may have spoken about that when we were kind of leveling this character through Heavensward's main story. I've never been a fan of the way that Ishgard is laid out. I think it has something to do with the fact that the city is split in two. I don't think it's split in two as well as the starting cities in the game, especially this little section right here. I think I definitely spoke about this in the last couple of videos, how I don't like the way that this particular section is laid out compared to a lot of the other cities. Luckily, when we get to 4.0, both Rhalgr's Reach and Kugane are both one zone each, so it's a little bit less, I guess, tedious to get around. The Ethernets don't feel as necessary, but they also feel a little bit more meaningful when you actually teleport around with them. Alright, so 3.3. I actually had somebody come into my stream today and talk to me about how they were working their way through the Heavensward main scenario, and I don't remember where they were in it, but they were talking about how if you watch them, it still takes a little bit too long. I'm kind of curious. I don't remember how long these took me in terms of when they first came out with watching the cutscenes. I want to say it didn't take me more than an hour and a half, 2 hours. Whereas A Realm Reborn, I definitely remember Ramuh taking a very long time specifically. 2.3 was definitely the longest set of main scenario quest, I guess, sets of quests, just because of there's just so much filler. Alright, let's throw on the new set of gear. Maybe I should have waited to repair until after I had the augmented set. Who cares? It's like 1,000 gil. There we go. I still look completely beautiful. Actually, I look atrociously disgusting. So, I'm sorry, Healer Happy, but you're scaring me here. Just, yeah, I'm not digging it. I am, believe it or not, that's actually an undershirt right there. Alright, so now we need to go to Annex Shrine. I think we get into the dungeons fairly quickly in this patch. Generally, that's how they work. You get into the dungeon really quick, and then the trial will take a little bit longer. Sohr Khai is actually one of my favorite Heavensward dungeons in terms of the aesthetic, the bosses, although one of them is not exactly the greatest trip down memory lane, but I'll make it work. I don't know why I'm using this mount. Oh my goodness, that looked so weird. Here we go, Vidofnir. Yeah, so food, don't really care because it's all NQ food. Damn, I wish it was more than 16k EXP each. Yeah, winning over Worm is going to be the quest that leads into the dungeon. So yeah, I'm going to be getting into that so quick. All right. Sir Amric outside of Mogholm, and then they're going to tell me to go to the other place. And then the next quest we pick up should send us into Sohr Khai. So patch 3.3 was actually the finale of what is known as the Dragon Song War arc. Basically, the war between the dragons and Ishgard comes to an end in this patch. So, if you have been paying attention to the story, it actually unfolds quite well here, and there's a fantastic cutscene before the final steps of faith, which will be in the, I guess, the part 2 video here. I have to remember to stop recording and start recording again before I do the part 2. Otherwise, it's going to end up being one really long video, because, or I would end up splitting it in two, and there's like a really awkward transition between the two. Alright. I didn't notice with how much swag Rogadin's kind of sit on the back of this thing. Just like, alright, let's go forward here. Man, it's been a while since I've seen this not done up, because I don't have the Moogle quest done on this character, so... Honestly, Moogle quest, even in Stormblood, still pretty worth doing. Glass fibers don't sell for as much anymore, but because not as many people are going out of their way to get them, on Gilgamesh, I think they were still selling for 20, 30k a pop, so while you're leveling your crafters from 50 to 60, still definitely worth doing those Moogle Beast Tribe quests. On top of making some money from the glass fibers you can get with the Kupo nuts, it's just effective leveling. I did press skip, it's taking a second. Alright, I believe... Well, talking to you... Open the... No, because there's a wyvern at the bottom here. Yeah. After I talk to this wyvern, it'll open up the dungeon. Alright, excellent. Take me to your leader. Sohr Khai, now accessible. Alright, so before we queue into Sohr Khai, let's take a look at it in our duty finder. Sohr Khai itself, like I said, is the main scenario dungeon of patch 3.3. If I could remember how to navigate this. Why is it, like, stuck? Oh, it's because it's left bumper, right bumper. So this is a dungeon for Heavensward, as you can see, right here. Sohr Khai was for patch 3.3. It gives 50 tomestones of poetics. Requires a minimum item level of 200, but if you've been following the main scenario, there's no reason you shouldn't have the minimum item level for this place. And other than that, it's fairly straightforward. So I'm expecting my queue won't be too long for it. I queued into Anti-Tower earlier, actually, to do my Wondrous Tales on my main, and it took no more than like 2 or 3 seconds, and I was on level 70. So considering Sohr Khai is also a main scenario dungeon, I have to imagine this won't take more than a minute. As you know, if it comes down to the point where I have nothing to talk about, and it takes, I don't know, longer than expected, then I'll do a little cut in the video, and it should be okay. But Sohr Khai in its own, a lot of people struggled with this dungeon. A lot of the newer players struggled with it because of the way the final boss works. It's very different from a lot of the other final bosses. I'd say the closest thing so far that we could compare it to is probably the Kraken of Hullbreaker Isle normal mode. And it's not so much that it works the same way in terms of the way you win the fight, but getting around the arena for the fight, it caused a lot of issues in a lot of Duty Finder groups back when Sohr Khai first came out. That being said, the dungeon itself is not overly confusing or difficult, just that final boss you have to get used to approaching the fight in a certain way that makes it a little bit more time efficient, especially when it comes to limit break usage. Unfortunately, as the healer, I cannot exercise said limit break usage, so I'll have to rely on the DPS for that one. But anyway, still hasn't popped yet, so I'm going to do an edit in the video, and when it actually pops, I'll come back and we'll get started. Alrighty then, took a few more minutes than I thought it would, but here it is, and now tank, DPS, I'm looking at you. I really feel like, is it just me? This doesn't happen when I'm not recording Healer Happy. When I'm recording Healer Happy, I have more DPS, not except the Q, than any other time I'm playing the game. Luckily this time they were pretty quick. Only took like 10 seconds. But I'm always nervous when I see it, because I'm like, you know, this could end in me really not having everything I need. Oh, by the way, the music here is beautiful. Alright, so, every time we kind of cover these dungeons, we got to talk about the different speed pulls that are available. The first few pulls here, well, the very first pull isn't really speed pull. Kind of gets everyone on the same page. These first two Cloud Gardeners, they don't even aggro until you attack them. In fact, they're asleep. So, he's trying to gather them up, and they're so not interested in what he's... Look, it just doesn't care. It's still not awake. There we go. They do have the nightmare status, which is the cause for that, but it's still kind of weird that they just, you know, they're just like not interested in it. I'm actually going to save my Asais. So this first pull is nothing. It's whatever. Like, there's no big pull there. From this point on, you can literally go wall to wall here. I don't recommend new groups do that, per se. We'll see. It looks like he might just grab these first few mobs. No, he is definitely... He's not going wall to wall necessarily, but he's at least going further. Where is... There it is. Okay. This is actually a pretty common pull right here, is the pull till just about right here. I'm going to give him a Cure 1. And... after this... Yeah, he's going wall to wall with it, which isn't that big a deal. I'll put this down for him. And I've got plenty of resources to work with here. Oof! I forgot about that. So watch out for the knockbacks here. There's actually a lot of AoEs that can cause problems, but he's running a really, really solid defensive cooldown rotation. There are some poisons, as you can see, as well. After the first few seconds, I'm going to switch over to Cure 2s as opposed to anything else. I'm also forgetting... Where did I put... Do I not have Eye for an Eye? Am I dumb? Where... I mean, don't answer that, okay? Don't answer that. As you can see, we melted them. It wasn't even... They didn't even stand a chance to. We don't even have any of the new jobs, which generally do melt these things, and he barely took any damage, so... So these little wind, like, circles right here, they drop from those fan-type enemies, and they actually push you forward in the dungeon. They're not mandatory, but if you step in them, they give you a short-duration haste buff, which isn't really going to matter for this coming up right here, but it's worth mentioning. So the first boss is Chieftain Moglin, and it's basically a mini Good King Moggle fight. It's a lot easier than the Good King Moggle fight, but it is basically a mini Good King Moggle. It even plays the music, as you can see. So the boss himself doesn't really do anything too special right from the get-go. We are going to throw a regen. The big thing is we're going to want to kill these ads, specifically Captain Moglin. Captain Moglin... basically tethers the boss and makes him invincible. Now, that's not the only thing that's going to happen here, so I have to be a little bit careful. He does do this Mog Holy, which just does a little bit of damage to everyone. So what he does right here is these little AoE circles are actually capable of rezzing the Moogles. If it resurrects King Moglin, he will, of course, re-tether to the boss, so that's the big thing you want to make sure doesn't happen. But if he resurrects any of them, I believe they either get max HP up, or they get a damage, like a damage bonus or something. So that's staff spinning right there. You saw what it does. It basically does a cross AoE. Just kind of just move away from it. It's whatever. Same here, more ads. He's going to try and resurrect them again, but he's already dead, so it doesn't matter. That's it. I mean, right there, like I said, he's going to try and resurrect the... he's going to try and resurrect Moglin and all the other Moogles right there again. In order to move them, you just have to hit them. So basically, you saw me cast Holy there, even though it was only one target alive. That was just so I could actually knock the ads away from those resurrection circles. Any AoE, any single target is sufficient there. So don't worry about it too much. Did I not... What's going on? I swear I had Eye for an Eye on my bar. Man, I guess I just didn't. Why? Especially in a dungeon? Why would I not? I don't know, man. It's whatever. So here, there's going to be a bunch of Anzu eggs. Basically, they'll hatch after a short duration, and however many you kill is however many less ads you have to deal with eventually. Now, the one thing that can be kind of dangerous about these cockerels, which are the mobs that come out of the eggs if they manage to hatch, is that all of their auto attacks are cleaves. So if you are trying to do, like, you see how I'm trying to, like, Holy here, don't stand in front of them, and if you're a tank, don't try to turn them to face their group, even to reposition them. because you are at an extreme risk of turning them and basically cleaving the entire party over and over and over again. I've seen a ton of melees get cleaved by them to death before they can get healed. I've seen healers, you know, try to go in for a holy. These Anzus, these fully grown ones, do the same thing. So much so, he doesn't even want to pull the cockerels afterwards. Like, that's how dangerous our tank considers this Anzu. Because he does the same thing. These Anzus, if I stand in front of it, it will cleave every auto attack, but it will cleave it for a lot harder. So be very, very aware of the potential damage output that comes out of the cockerels and the Anzus. Looks like he might actually do the rest of the dungeon full. And then after this Anzu is a couple more mobs. Looks like he's going to go wall to wall for the rest of them. I'll throw him a cure 1. I've still got a Tetra and a free cure for him. These other mobs aren't too bad. The Sunahales and the Kargas. Nothing too special. You saw even there I got hit by one. These mobs, however, do start hitting a lot harder than some of the other mobs we were dealing with earlier. And then some of them aren't asleep. Alright, so I'm going to try... Yeah, you can see our monk is starting to kind of get into a situation where I got to devote some time to him. It's just because, he's staying in the healing circle, which is fine. It's just, it's a result of these Anzus and these cockerels, especially because mobs like to push each other aside. So what ends up happening, even if the tank has it right, sometimes the mobs just move each other, and then you're all of a sudden cleaving people and you didn't even mean to. So you can't even blame the tank. It's just a result of mobs just kind of being annoying there. So this is the second boss, by the way. This is Poqir. Pretty straightforward. Has a tank buster. You'll see when it reverses around and kicks right there. The other mechanic that it does is there's actually walls alongside here. These pillars to our left and our right actually can be destroyed. That Quasar ability just picks a random party member and shoots a line AoE at it. So you want to make sure that you're not aiming that Quasar towards the wall because it can destroy these pillars. After that, the boss does do a proximity AoE right here, and then destroys a section. Now, if you step in that watered area, it'll deal pretty large damage over time. So what you want to do is you want to position it so that when he charges across the arena, you're not knocked towards it. That charge through the arena will knock you towards the outside of the arena. And he should do it one more time, and I can show it to you again. But first, we got this other AoE that we got to deal with. Quasar again, same deal. Even if it hits multiple people, it's not a big deal. You just want to make sure it doesn't hit the walls. Even if it hits the walls, honestly, it doesn't matter. I could heal through it. So this AoE right here drops a cloud. And that cloud is going to pulse AoEs. I believe it gives vuln stacks if you get hit by it. And it does also damage the pillars along the outside. After a few strikes, it'll destroy them. Alright. And now, yeah, he's going to pick a side to land on. Did he just step in it, just for the sake of stepping in it? So see this knockback? See the arrows pointing away? That means that it'll knock you towards the outside. And so you generally want to just take that initiative and just avoid getting pushed into the puddles. As you can see, it does do a considerable amount of damage. And at this point, the Quasar doesn't even matter because the boss is going to be dead. He's going to keep doing that. He's going to keep destroying walls until... At one point, he's going to have destroyed every wall, and you're not going to be able to avoid the damage. So it's like a soft DPS check, but even if you do step into the lightning puddles, it's super healable. But it's damage that, honestly, no one should be taking. And the rest of the dungeon is a bunch of small pulls. Super easy to keep pace with it. There's no real way to do big pulls for the rest of this dungeon. So you fight these 3 things, and then you fight another couple of dragons, and then that's it. Look, he wants to do a big pull, but there's no big pull to be had here. In fact, he's just pulling into the wall so that as soon as these things are dead, we can pretty much run immediately to the next trash pull. Like I said, people had a harder time with this dungeon when it first came out. Nowadays, none of the old dungeons really give anyone any struggles. But I always feel like it's worth mentioning when people used to struggle with these things. So after we kill one of these wyverns, a dragon's going to come and create a path between this platform and that platform and do a bunch of giant ice AoE. Not a big deal. Move out of it and then use the ice path to go across. Look, I barely even need regens here. Like, I'll do one, but I really barely need it. I'm actually going to swap things out a little bit. Get on the other wyvern. They shoot AoEs. Not very big ones. Alright, as soon as that first Holy Wyvern dies, you're going to see it. Here comes the other dragon. Shoots the ice AoE. If you stand it, it's not fatal. But, you know, don't. In fact, that guy's doing it just for fun. He was playing chicken with it. And there you go. Creates a path across, and then there's just one trash mob left in the whole dungeon. And it's the dragon that just made that path. Now, just one of those wyverns was practically worth as much as an entire quest. It was worth 11,000, and a quest is worth about 16,000 at this point. This mob does actually auto-attack pretty hard. So, I'll throw him a regen, and that'll be fine. And there you go. So, like I said, it was actually really just the final boss that some people struggled with back in the day. There's no trash here, so it's whatever. You'll see what I mean when you actually see the boss arena. Why people kind of just panicked around, and sometimes, yeah, that's the boss arena below us. Not just one of those circles, all of those circles. So you basically use these... So you notice how I've been using these, like, air steps right here to, like, dash between the different platforms? Yeah, it's pretty much the same here. So he's going to have mechanics that encompass these AoE circles. The boss is omnidirectional here, by the way, so don't worry about positionals overall. That being said, I always do get nervous. He doesn't even have a cleave. So, like, you're going to see him do an attack right here that looks like a cleave. That right there, it's actually not a cleave. Every time I always think it's a cleave, and it's not. So one of the big things here is he's going to summon a bunch of light elementals. First there's this, Holy Breath, which just pulses over and over again, so just move out of it. Whoever gets it, just move out of it, pretty much. So then he's going to summon a bunch of Holy Sprites, and he's going to do a Dive Bomb. Basically, that will destroy all the platforms it's touching. These Holy Sprites actually generate a ton of LB gauge. Why am I spamming Arrow 3? So you can see, watch what happens when I kill one. And I do recommend killing these just because, even if you're just the healer killing them. Alright, I'll type LB. Yep. So these guys generate a ton of limit break gauge. So you can get multiple LBs out here to end the fight a lot faster. This mechanic, honestly, so he summons a bunch of ice, like things that float around and explode and slow your movement speed. I've never seen anyone care about these ice things. Like, if they could summon big spawned right next to us, I wouldn't move for them. Like, that's how little people care about them. There's another one. Alright, again, same deal. Jump away, he's going to destroy a few more platforms. He's also going to summon dragon heads that kind of float around in the same way. I'm going to bring this one over here. Yeah, see? Look at this. I'm not moving for this ice storm. I'm not even going to bother. It's not worth moving for. Like, I'll just do that, and then it's like nothing was wrong. Yeah, and now we have a whole nother LB1. And it just helps speed up the fight. Is he not going to summon the dragon heads? They didn't get rid of that mechanic. He's just dying so fast. Yeah, normally he summons dragon heads to fly across the arena as well, and you just don't touch them. He didn't even get the chance to do that. We annihilated. We didn't even use the second LB. We didn't need to. Just that first LB was more than enough. And then it'll just throw you onto this last platform right here. And that's it. That's the whole dungeon. That last thing right there is the only thing. Sometimes people used to struggle with it, but they don't anymore. So real straightforward. And I even got a player commendation out of that. So really, really straightforward. Just be on the lookout for that dragon head mechanic. And as a healer, you can make your team not need to care about those diamond storms. But if people sit in the holy breaths and then they walk next to a storm, or they get multiple storms back to back, it can be kind of annoying, especially because sometimes people like jump all over the place. They're nowhere near the healer, and then you look bad because they died because they're jumping around away from you, and they're standing in the holy breaths and then eating the diamond storms, which are unavoidable AoEs, and it can be a nightmare just because of those things. That being said, you can see how it goes when it goes kind of smooth right there, and so expect it to go that way most of the time. Just be prepared to adjust in case anything goes wrong. Anyway, I promised I would split 3.3 into two separate halves because of the final steps of faith, and that is why I'm going to stop the video here. thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed my little walkthrough of Sohr Khai right there. I will see you in the next part for the finale of the Dragon Song War, as well as the other half of patch 3.3. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned, because we're working our way up to Stormblood in the Healer Happy series, and then we're going to get to some more relevant, recent information to talk about with that one. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Until next time, take care.